The story about the UN ambassador being canceled. So as you guys know, there have been protests ever since October 7th. And, the students have been very vocal about, the U.S. government supporting Israel. They've been very vocal about that. They're not backing down. A lot of these students are still at the encampments on campus, even though they've been threatened with the police presence. They have not backed down from that. They have also not backed down from uninviting speakers for commencement. So some of these commencements actually will start tomorrow. And I want to give a shout out to Xavier University. Funny little note here. One of my friends when I was in high school actually applied to Xavier University. She got accepted, but she didn't end up going there. So it was interesting when I saw the story come around. Shout out to Xavier University for this. Xavier University cancels UN ambassador's commencement speech after student outcry. So there she is, folks. You know her as the woman who raises her hand during these meetings. She has been canceled. That is Linda Thomas Greenfield. Let's get into this story here. Xavier University of Louisiana has reversed course and canceled Saturday's planned commencement address by U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas Greenfield, after news of her appearance sparked outrage among some students. So again, the students have more power than they realize. They've been very vocal about the government participation in this genocide in Gaza, and they're not backing down. So again, the students have realized that they are actually the customers at these universities, and their voice really does make a difference. University President Reynold Verrett announced the decision in an email Wednesday to faculty, staff, and students. Everyone's goal is to have a commencement ceremony that appropriately honors the graduates and their achievements. The vast majority of students want to be able to enjoy a commencement ceremony free of disruptions. Therefore, we will not be moving forward with the commencement speaker as originally planned. Everybody clap and give it up for Xavier. Give it up for the students. Give it up. Because, they realize, wait a minute, there's more of us than you guys. And we really do have a lot to say here. We really do have a lot of power, because without our dollars, this university doesn't even exist. And without us, the professors, you don't exist. You don't have a job. The deans don't have a job. The president of the university doesn't have a job. It goes on to say students were outraged over Thomas Greenfield's invitation to speak because of their opposition to the past positions by the U.S. on the war in Gaza. Before presenting a March resolution to the UN Security Council that called for an immediate and sustained ceasefire in Gaza, the U.S. vetoed 3 other ceasefire resolutions proposed by other countries. So this is something I want to mention. Even though she did not raise her hand to veto the last piece of resolution that came through, the students are still holding her accountable for her raising her hand to veto the other pieces of resolutions that did come through the UN. So they haven't forgotten. I love it. I love it. In explaining one veto, Thomas Greenfield said that the U.S. could not support ceasefire resolutions that do not mention Israel's right to self-defense. In explaining another, she said the U.S. could not support a ceasefire until Hamas freed hostages it took during its October 7th attack on Israel. So yeah, she's given different reasons, every time, but the students aren't stupid. They're paying attention to what's going on. And then if you think about these things as well, you'll also notice that we have a current ceasefire on the table now, resolution that Hamas actually agreed to. There was another one prior to that they also agreed to. So she's just been coming up with different excuses. Again, she is the face that people remember raising their hand. She also has an alternate. There's another guy that sits in her position. He's raised his hand as well. But she's the face that people remember because she's done it the most. And I want to show you that the students have actually protested against her before. And I want to bring up this clip here I believe this is when she was speaking at, was this Columbia? I forget which event this was. But Sarah Wilkinson shared this, and she said, after UN Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield took the stage, the event was shut down as the audience began chanting "Free Palestine." So students have been heavily critical against her, as they should.
Delighted to be part of you and joining this.
Regulations and the conduct of the university. We will ask delegates to now please escort you out. You are interrupting an academic event, and this is in contrast to the university regulations about time, place, and manner. You are now going to be escorted. Okay. Okay.
So what I'd like to talk to you about today, to start with, I visited 5 months ago a refugee camp in Adre, Chad, just over the border from Sudan, and I heard from so many people who have said to me,
this is yet again a violation of the university rules of conduct. You are interrupting an academic proceeding. It is time for you to exit the space. This is a violation of the university rules of conduct. This is an academic proceeding, and you need to exit the space.
And I want to remind everyone, she was appointed, if I remember correctly, I believe she was appointed by Biden. I have to go back and check, but I think she was. And actually, I think LPA already pointed it out. Blackface is being used as the face of imperialism and genocide by Dems. Surprise, surprise. Every time. Who were the people raising their hand to say no, right? You also have the general, I forget his name, Lloyd Austin, I believe his name. You have the general also that's in front, like, you know, making these statements every time.
Briefly and reconvene in a moment. We embrace freedom of expression at Columbia University. This is a violation of the university rules of conduct, as it's a disruption of an academic proceeding. Thank you for making your way out of the event space. We need to exit the event space. You are in violation of the university rules of conduct. The event will proceed momentarily. You need to exit the event space. You are in violation of the university rules of conduct. Thank you to our audience for being patient. We will begin again momentarily.
Yeah, I don't understand how you can actually sit through that event after that just happened. So I wonder how people in the audience can just sit through that after, you know, that just happened. Someone mentioned Colin Powell. Absolutely. He was another one. Katie said, you literally can't have a soul to do the things that these people do and not be in utter shambles with the actions they commit. Yeah. And one of the chants that was yelled out is that she needs to quit her job. But you know what, again, like I said, like I remember people were applauding Joe Biden because they said that, look, he appointed all these, you know, black women, and they were applauding him for that. But yeah, they're put in these positions where when the US government or when Joe Biden chooses to make these decisions, especially when it comes to imperialism or war abroad, they are the face that is, you know, in front of the issue. They're the face that is in front of the media. They're the face that everyone sees when they raise their hand to vote against a ceasefire. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Miss African Root said Condoleezza Rice. That's right. Her too. Everybody's remembering. Sonny said Kamala as well. That's true. This is true. Yes. Yes, I know. Right. So you see a pattern. Now, that's one part of the news. There's also more good news. A couple of days ago, I showed you the story about the ASU professor that was actually harassing a Palestinian student that was, from what I understand, was just standing there minding her own business. We'll go ahead and bring up that video, and I'm going to tell you about what happened to him, because Glenn Greenwald said what noble and courageous behavior from this former IDF soldier, Sammy Ben, and this professor at the University of Austin, Jonathan Yudelman. Really impressive use of physical intimidation and force against these women for their political views. So we have another one here. I told you we were going to have some good things. So this is what happened, and then I'll show you what has happened to him. Again, this is a professor.
You don't like it, go back to jail.
You are literally...
I'm literally in your face, that's right.
You're disrespecting my religious
Why are you wearing a mask?
boundaries.
You should be happy with what you're doing.
Religious boundaries.
What does this have to do with religion? You're spewing hate. What does this have to do with religion?
Get the fuck out of my face.
No. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, who invited you here? Go back to jihad. Go.
Hate crime!
Fuck
Hate
out of
crime!
here.
Hate crime right here! Cops, what are you doing? Hate crime right here!
What's the problem? You guys have an issue? What do you say about the 7th of October? You have an opinion about it? You also glorified it? You're happy about it?
They were literally
COVID or
just
the
standing here.
FBI, huh? That's
We're literally just
So
standing
take off the mask. You're proud. No, you're proud, no?
Yeah, so that is what happened. That video actually went viral on social media, I'm sure, as you could imagine there. Well, now something has happened to that professor, and I think you guys will be very happy to hear this news. Again, another one canceled. Another one. Update. Yudelman is out. Per ASU President Michael Crow, he is no longer permitted to be on campus and will never teach here again. ASU had said on Monday that he was on leave pending an investigation. And I'll go ahead and pull this up here. ASU postdoctoral researcher resigned prior to incident in viral video. ASU President Michael Crow provides statement that Jonathan Yudelman will not be permitted to teach or enter campus after intimidating two people at a pro-Israel rally. And I got to say this, folks. First of all, the fact that that guy was a professor and he was behaving that way towards a student, that is a problem. You know, students should be able to feel comfortable around a faculty. They should feel like they can trust faculty members. They should not feel intimidated by them, and they should never feel threatened, and they should never feel like their very existence or their identity or their religion is threatened by a professor. When he decided to do this, he was basically letting everybody know how he felt about this particular issue, but also how he felt about Muslim people. The way that he came towards the student was 100% inappropriate and wrong and very problematic. And that makes you wonder, has he done this to other students before in the past? And maybe they were silent about it because they were afraid. Imagine if it was an international student that it happened to. Maybe they're afraid to report to administration, because a lot of times administration does not do anything, especially if it's a faculty member that has tenure. Maybe they're afraid to do that because they don't want to have their student visa revoked, and sent back to their country. So these things do happen. Having worked in higher ed, I've seen these things happen where those international students are afraid to go to administration because they're going to send me back home. I've heard this a number of times. Or, maybe he has intimidated other students and they just didn't say anything because they were just scared. Like they didn't want to be removed from the university. A lot of times, the administration, they back faculty, not the students. So he's gone. So two cancellations. Can I get a hell yeah? Can I get a hell yeah? I told you we were starting off with good news tonight. This is how it should be. Now, of course, this is now putting pressure back on Morehouse, because Morehouse students also have been very vocal about the fact that they do not want commencement speakers that are supporting the genocide in Gaza. And their speaker is supposed to be President Joe Biden. Now, those students actually spoke out about this in a meeting. They demand the Morehouse president rescind Biden's invite to speak at Morehouse graduation ceremony. And of course, like, he didn't want to do that because he's in bed with the Democratic Party. You don't know what kind of deals they may have made with him. So listen to this, just a reminder.
Right now, I'm being told that we need to use our platform as Morehouse men. Why are we using it to support someone who hasn't been supporting Palestine and Gaza and things like that? How are we being global cosmopolitan citizens? What precedent does that set for freshmen?
There's a possibility of a genocide happening, and we're seeing our government continually sending more and more weapons, 2,000-pound bombs that are being dropped on whole neighborhoods, schools being destroyed, hospitals being destroyed.
You condemn what's happening, man. Children is dying. Innocent people being blown up, and you can see the videos, and you can't deny the videos. And we don't condemn that. You say, well, the world might not see it as, oh, we complicit. You know, we see it as we complicit. We, the students, telling you, we see it as that's being complicit. Do y'all see that as complicit?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's complicit. That's complicit in genocide. Do you think it's a genocide or not? Let me just ask the question everybody wants to hear. Do you think it's a genocide, or do you not think it's a genocide what's happening in the West? Simple yes or no. That's all I want. Yes or no. Is it a genocide or not? Of your personal, professional opinion, as an educator, as a man of this country, what do you think? Are the people of Gaza being genocided, or are they not?
I'm not going to answer that question.
So you heard that, right? He said he was not going to answer that question, right? Because he's in bed with the Democratic Party. You see how this works? Like, he'd already made this promise to Joe Biden that he could come there. Danny said Pharrell's hat. Yeah, I know. I thought about that when I saw the video too. But students at Morehouse are still protesting against this, by the way. In fact, Sydney Sims actually posted this on Twitter. She said, I'm at Morehouse this morning where students rallying for Gaza and calling on AUC presidents and leaders to publicly condemn President Joe Biden imminent arrival to speak at Morehouse's graduation. Now, she posted this. That was May 8th. I believe he's supposed to speak there tomorrow.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. The occupation shut it down. 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 The occupation. What do we want?
So, you know, I don't think that President Biden, number one, was expecting the backlash that he has received that has happened from all the protesters after October 7th. It was very clear that the Biden administration had admitted, actually in a leaked conversation, that they did not expect this type of response. So they didn't know how to respond to it. So there's that. But I also don't think that he was expecting HBCU students to also protest against this, because there's this idea that, well, Black people are going to support the Democratic Party regardless. That is no longer the case. And I think it's a great thing to see. I love to see these students standing up, and I think we're getting some wins here and there. Obviously, it's not enough, but it is showing you that the students' voices are being heard, and they do realize that they have power, especially when they come together as a collective group. It's happening all across the country, not just in the United States. There's students protesting in the UK. There's students protesting in Japan, Amsterdam, Germany. It's all across the world. And I think, you know, we really are at a time, particularly where I look back on the George Floyd protests, and we've talked about this before, how like at the end of it, it was just kind of like, okay, the demand was to defund the police, but Biden chose to give the police more money. But part of the problem was at the end of those protests, as you may remember, after Trump lost, a lot of the protesters went back home. And I know some of you're watching, you're in the DC area. I think DC had one of the largest George Floyd protests. A lot of people in DC, Chuck Modi was on the ground covering these protests. He was like, a lot of these people just went back home, like after, Trump won, right? So remember, that was an election year. And I think people have looked back on that. And I think particularly a lot of activists were like, you know what, maybe that wasn't the right call. Maybe we should have continued even after Biden won. Because the problem is police brutality is an issue regardless if the president is a Democrat or Republican, So I have to remind you, BLM started under Barack Obama's presidency, not under Donald Trump's presidency. So that's just something to remember. But shout out to the students and to Linda Thomas Greenfield. Bye, Felicia. Bye. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Joe. Obama wants no part of this sinking ship. Yeah, I guess he's kind of quiet now. He'll be back, though. PB World, getting people of color to do their dirty work yet again. DT Pointer, cancellation of the commencement speech will hopefully lead to a cancellation of a presidency. DT going all in. DT going all in. Gamer says tomorrow, Dr. Jill Stein's B-Day is tomorrow and she's doing a panel. Yeah, I saw something about that on Twitter. Iman? Yes, she was appointed by Biden. Yeah, so she was. I thought so. Frank says, LFG, you love to see the young folks stepping up and speaking out. Yes, I do. And thank you for the super chat, Hi Young. I would have never thought he would be a professor. Good riddance, he's gone. Yeah, that type of behavior is completely unacceptable. And also what he didn't think about when he was, on camera there as well is you're now removed from that university. So if you want to continue as, a postdoc faculty, you now have to apply to another university. And I don't know what his area of expertise was at that university, but let's say he was in engineering and let's say he was in mechanical engineering department or something like that. He would have to look for another postdoc opportunity in mechanical engineering. And then it depends. Even within that field, there are other categories that are part of mechanical engineering. So it's not as easy as you think to just go get another postdoc appointment. Yeah. What's that, Carrie? Carrie said he's in poli-sci. Oh, good luck. I don't see a lot of people handing out poli-sci postdocs. A lot of them for math and science. Are more for STEM. I don't see a lot of poli-sci postdocs being handed out. So I don't know. Good luck with that, honey. Good luck with that. I'll get the comment on Rockfin, Eric. Oh man, what a doozy. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Dave. Thanks, Sabs and Eric, for the coverage. You are welcome.